Hey, it's F. Gardner. Something really crazy happened to me years ago, and I'm going to talk about it in this video. So a lot of people know how I'm a Buddhist. I'm pretty open about how I used to be Catholic. I used to be a Catholic seminarian, and I eventually converted to Buddhism. That I fell down the rabbit hole about discovering how Christianity is a Jewish Psy-Op, and that's part of how I decided I wanted to become Buddhist instead. That's what I converted to. I'm going to talk about the most controversial thing I think I could say about this whole thing. Okay, so here I go. So, this was years ago, and I had been falling down the rabbit hole for a while, both for that, all the research videos watching, books I was reading, history books, stuff like that, figuring out how Christianity is a Jewish psyop. And at the same time, I was simultaneously falling down the Buddhism rabbit hole, which is part of why I converted to Buddhism. And okay, so I did something. I said a prayer. The final time I ever prayed to Jesus, I asked him to reveal himself. I said, I want to know, what have I been praying to all this time? I basically outright told myself I'm gonna know, that I demanded it, that I deserved to know. And something supernatural seeming happened. So, okay, I was in my room at my old home before I moved here, still in Chicago, but I was in a room and at my old place, and I did this, and all of a sudden flies started appearing in the room. And when I did that prayer, I said I'd like to give a sign, so that I'll know, so that I'll know what I've really been praying to. And that was directed at Jesus, the Christian God, because this was before I went from, right when I went from Christian to Buddhist, basically. The final time I ever prayed to Jesus. And when I did that, flies started appearing in the room. And I don't just mean a couple. It was filled with flies. And this wasn't a dirty place or anything. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. Flies started just filling the room everywhere. And when this happened, because I was Christian at the time, all of a sudden in my head, it was I just thought of Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, a term for the devil in Christianity. And it was right when I asked I asked Jesus to identify himself, what have I really been praying to? It's back when I was Christian. And to give a sign so that I would know, a way that I would know, what the answer is. And then that happened. I see all these flies just swarming the room. It might have been 100 flies, I don't know, dozens. And that was the last time I ever prayed to Jesus, the Christian God. I decided to become Buddhist. In case people are wondering, what does, F. Gardner, does that mean you believe in Beelzebub, the devil, Satan? Well, I asked for a sign, and if I was Christian in that time, at that time, that would have been a sign that, would have registered with me, I guess. And so, no, I don't believe in the Christian devil, no. Satan, no. But I am Buddhist now, and Buddhism does have a devil. It has Mara, the god of evil and illusion, sometimes just called the devil. It doesn't use the word Satan. It's a totally different, lore, background, doctrine for how that works and everything. So Buddhism still has all sorts of things about how there's a devil and that there could be demons and stuff like that. Even though Buddhism is not an Abrahamic religion, it's not like Christianity is the only religion that has stuff like that. Am I just outright saying, oh, this means Jesus has secretly been some kind of a devil or demon, or the Buddhist devil, Mara, in disguise? I'm telling you what happened to me, and you make your own decisions or call for what you think, whatever. And when so that was the last time I was ever Christian. I became Buddhist basically immediately. I had already been falling down that rabbit hole for a long time. That, and also the whole Christianity being a Jewish Psy-Op rabbit hole, figuring all that out. So that was the very final thing, and I decided. It was a gradual thing, but I decided I got to write a book about this. And eventually, I'm famous for a lot of horror novels I've written. And then there's this one, Kabbalah of the Crocodile. That's the horror novel I've written. I've toured all sorts of podcasts, been on all sorts of shows about this. It entails the conspiracy theory about Christianity being a Jewish Psy-Op. It's the same book that has the stuff about the synagogue tunnels that I predicted. Even the news crews and the police showing up outside of the synagogue and it getting on the news and going viral. And even in the book, it's about how things are going to manifest in real life. And then it happened. It manifested in real life. This was published a year before the news events because I wanted to expose that stuff, and I also wanted to make more people aware of the whole Christianity being a Jewish Psy-Op thing. It's a huge part of the book, central to this novel, to this horror novel. Because I thought, no one's ever written a horror novel about that before. And there's this scene, a chapter in this where when the main character, he's at the synagogue in this book in the tunnels, and long story short, they summon the demon that's been worshipped, that the Jews were worshiping, and the Christians got tricked, or the Gentiles got tricked into becoming. So the Gentiles got tricked into becoming Noahides, abandoning their old religions, pagan religions, polytheism and everything, and were tricked into being Christian, Noahides. And so they're worshiping the same deity too, basically. And it gets summoned in the book. And when that's happening, all these flies are appearing, and when it's coming out, when it's manifesting, the main character, he's thinking like, whoa, this is like Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies. Like, he remembers that. So that's why that whole part in this book, that's because I based that part on my personal experience of the story I just told about being in the room and the flies coming after saying that prayer. Yeah, it's because that happened to me, and I thought, I need to work this part in particular into the book somehow. And yeah, I think I did that really well. People message me all the time, like, oh, F. Gardner, thank you so much for telling me about this conspiracy theory about how Christianity is a Jewish Psy-Op. And yeah, people thank me all the time about that. Because I write about the most controversial things you can imagine in horror novels. For conspiracy theories, nothing is ever too taboo or whatever. The more I hear, if there's anything I ever hear, like, oh, this is too taboo, this is going too far, you shouldn't talk about that, I dismiss that. If anything, I look into it more. I think, whoa, this is something maybe I should consider looking into, this rabbit hole, this conspiracy theory. And this is like, man, yeah, the most taboo or whatever, controversial of them all, this whole rabbit hole. Christianity being a Jewish psyop. And yeah, so long story short, like I said, that was my experience. How I used to be Christian, figured out that Christianity is a Jewish psyop. I said that prayer to Jesus, saying to give a sign who he really is. Then flies manifested all over the room, all inside the room I was in. And I immediately thought of Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, and it made me wonder, is this something demonic? Did something demonic answer? So make of that what you will. But I became Buddhist. I converted to Buddhism. Oh, and I didn't hallucinate the flies or anything like that. I wasn't high or drunk or anything. And even other people saw it too. We had to call whatever, an exterminator at the time. And that never happened before. So, and other people saw it. So it's not like I was seeing things or anything like that. Anyway, yeah, really wild, for lack of a better term, this story that I'm telling you, and it worked its way into my horror novel. Yeah, so this book is called Kabbalah of the Crocodile. Look this one up, check it out if you want to read it. It's my horror novel about the Jews and all sorts of Talmudic stuff. Synagogue tunnels, Christianity being a Jewish psyop, all the most controversial stuff you can imagine. And yeah, I've been on all sorts of podcasts about that. You could check those out if you haven't seen those before. And I guess that just about sums this video up. I've been thinking about doing a video about this for a while. And yeah, this was a gradual thing. Like, I thought, oh, I got to do this, but I need to make sure it's perfect. I need to make sure it's like the perfect horror novel. Oh, and my books, they could be read in any order, by the way. I've got 17 horror novels. They all take place in Chicago. My series is called Horror's Call, but you could read any of them in any order, basically. So you could start with this one or any of the others, doesn't matter. I'll leave the link for my book on Amazon. Check it out, because this book is so controversial. Yeah, I don't know, it could get banned or something. Because I'll post about my books on like Twitter, X, and I'll frequently get like notifications saying, oh, you're getting we're giving you a reach restriction label, stuff like that, where X, even though Elon Musk claims to be pro freedom of speech, he's not. He's full of shit. He's pro censorship. X gives you these reach restriction labels if you talk about things that they deem not kosher for social media. So yeah, basically my work is getting like shadow banned on social media platforms and stuff. Like the first time I ever went on, let me think, Spotify, on a podcast on that, it like instantly got banned. Yeah, that episode, but it's still on like Rumble and other stuff like that. Same with all the other podcasts I've been on. Yeah, Rumble's a great website. They don't censor like how YouTube does. Not to the same extent. I'm glad that I've been able to utilize that. I like a lot of the other stuff too, like BitChute and Odyssey. But I've been using Rumble a real lot. I've become quite fond of that as a pro free speech platform. It has its issues too. I've heard people talk about censorship problems there, but that's a different topic. I'm thankful for it, basically, that I've been able to utilize it, because YouTube will give you censorship notices over almost anything. Things that are even just like, I don't know, PG-13 territory. Things that aren't even that extreme by comparison. YouTube will give you censorship, whatever, notifications. But Twitter, X is the worst. X is worse than Facebook, I think. Like, I think it's crazy that people think X is a pro-free speech platform. It's clearly not. Anyway, you get the idea. Check out my book if you want to read this one. I'll hopefully have a new book coming out soon. I'll keep everybody posted. That's all for now. Peace out, everybody. Bye.